Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.
Hello, and welcome to Champion Psychology, a show with the goal of openly talking about mental health and gaming presented by Codename Entertainment. I'm one of your hosts, Treavor Bettis, and joining me each week is the amazing person who is...
Mitra Jordan. Woo! Amazing. Okay.
I'm gonna say it every week. You got to get used to it. I'm gonna say it every week.
But you see how I kind of back up with the, oh, it's amazing. Oh, I don't know. I'm just me. Hey.
Well, who are you, in case the folks don't know?
Am I? Why do I have anything to say at all? Yeah. So I'm a registered clinical counselor working in Victoria, BC. I work regularly with individuals. I work with couples as well. I also do some family therapy. And actually, that's really pertinent to today's show, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It often involves families, actually. Yeah. So yeah, that's me. And that's why we're...
I realize I never say who I am, but really, if you don't know, I'm just some guy.
Treavor is definitely not just some guy.
I'm just here to field the questions and the thoughts.
You seem to have plenty of your own.
Well, I know, but like you've got the expert and learned and all that stuff thoughts. Like you got the important stuff.
Well, yes, but I also have to have someone to organize me. I.e. you.
Well, you say that, and I'm like, oh wait, I haven't even opened the questions doc for the mods and stuff. So
I have had it open before me.
No.
Yes, this is how we carry on.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I guess since I mentioned it there, hey folks, as we are talking today, if you have any questions for us as we're going, you can put them into chat with question : and then your question, and our awesome mods, Mars and Lauren, will grab them and put them into a little text doc, and we'll talk about them at the end of the show. But yeah, we're going to be talking about vacations this episode, and we usually start these off with why we're talking about this, and I jokingly put, well, because Treavor just took a vacation and he feels better.
Yes, that's pertinent, and also it is July. And a lot of people take vacations in July and August, so it did seem kind of like a timely one for us.
That's true.
Yeah,
but it's not often we get to do timely episodes, so that actually works out.
There we are. Yes.
But yeah, no, I think the conversation of this is good because I think that there is kind of a societal idea of what a vacation is, and I do think that needs to expand, and I'm not saying like we're gonna change minds or open minds today or anything like that, but like I think a conversation about that is a good thing to have to get people thinking a little bit about it when it comes to the term vacation.
Yeah, and I'd like to ask people to just hold in their mind, actually, do you feel that there's a difference between holiday and vacation? Do they hold the same meaning for you, or do you feel that there's a distinction? And please do say so in the comments. I'd be very curious. Yeah, I won't say what I think about that until we get a little further into the show.
I'm gonna hold that one too. Yeah, because we didn't talk about that one before the show,
No,
and I'm very much like,
good on you.
ooh, I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's start things off with what constitutes a vacation.
Okay, and I think that to my mind, a vacation is a change from your day-to-day experience. It is in my mind, a break from our responsibilities. And it sort of correlates for me with the saying, a change is as good as a rest, which I don't agree is
Ooh.
always true, by the way. But there's this idea that if we sort of step away from the daily grind, even if it's to do something else, that we might experience a break or a rest from something.
Hmm.
So,
I've never
and
heard that one before. A change is as good as a rest, and I don't think I've ever so quickly disagreed with a statement in my
yeah,
life.
I'm with you. Yeah, I agree. I don't think a change is as good as a rest, but I think it can be. I think the implication of that is that even if you remain as busy, if you're doing something different, it maybe is more restful. And for me, that does actually relate to what sort of vacation we plan
Hmm.
and whether our expectation meets our reality. Because I think vacations can be rife with disappointment.
Yeah.
And, I think we are all familiar with the idea that we need a vacation from our vacation. Right. And so we're
Uh,
going to talk about what happens there
yeah, yeah.
that we feel that way versus actually feeling good
Hmm.
after our time away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I the question of like what constitutes vacation, like I definitely think was like like, what is kind of the general idea of it, and like, yeah, you had in there like, it's to relax, like it's to get away and stuff like that. But like, I do also think that it comes in there is like, well, you got to do something. Like that's,
yeah.
and like, people kind of put that weight onto, like, oh, I'm taking a week off. Oh, what are you gonna do? And it's like, well, I mean, do you have to do anything? Like, I think that a separation between like I think there needs to be another term, because like, there's vacation that people use as a term to take off of work or off of school and stuff like that. But sometimes you need some self-care, you need some actual ability to relax, and going and doing a big thing might not be that. Like, that might not make that better, that could actually make it worse, where I think maybe that vacation from a vacation starts to come in from.
Yeah,
But we'll get into
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, I think first of all, there's a something that people used to say, and it was really big when I was quite young, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it, and it still floats around, and it's this idea of I work hard and I play hard,
Mm, mm-hmm.
and where there's this idea of every minute being productive in
Yeah.
there, and there's also this idea that you know basically my escape is as emotionally and maybe cognitively intense as my work time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've absolutely, I can't tell you how much I despise that concept very strongly, because I think it's a real, you're asking for mental health challenges if you think that way, quite
Mm-hmm.
frankly. And you're asking, because you're not creating any time for yourself to reflect.
Yeah.
You're not
Oh,
creating any space.
that this is gonna be a weird time where I actually get to relate this episode to writing, but I'm gonna do it. Where like,
Excellent.
what one of the best pieces of writing advice that I ever heard was from Mary Robinette Cole, who said that the moment after like the climax of a story, like what happens afterward, is almost more important than what happened there. Where it is the how people react, respond, and deal with what is going on is that is where the important stuff happens. Like, the
Mhm.
moment comes, and like something big happens, but how people cope with that is the real part of the story. And so, yeah, in that same situation of just like, yeah, you need that moment to be able to reflect on what has been happening with you and what has been going on with you, more so than just, okay, well, it's after work, I'm just going to reflect on my day, and I'll be good. Like, you kind of need that for a longer period of time.
Yeah, because part of the reason we want to take a break well, there's several reasons. One might be to just go do something fun that we really look forward to, but another might be to kind of take a break from our usual life experiences that we might enjoy or we might find really stressful. Either way, we need to shift away from those for a while. But I think a big reason we want a vacation is for connectedness with something. So it can be connectedness with our partner or our kids if we're, planning a family trip or we're planning to spend time with family. It can be connectedness with a hobby or something we love that is a way to see parts of ourselves that don't always get to come out. And it can also be a way to reflect on what's important to us. But it's a really important part of the experience, as you say, particularly if what we're planning is something big, like the once in a lifetime trip is something that we are going to discuss in more detail. Because if we do something big that may be quite costly as well, that puts a lot of pressure on ourselves to get things out of the experience, to extract from it everything we can, which may not be at all relaxing. So what we're going to come to is how important it is to plan. A vacation doesn't have to be expensive.
Yeah.
It can be a camping trip. Nobody needs the best equipment necessarily. It can be a trip to go stay with a friend in another city. It can be staying home. We'll get to that as well, but we want to talk about the planning there again, because the planning makes a big difference. First of all, we come to the mismatch potentially between a vacation and your headspace.
Yeah.
Where are you at? And this can be difficult because the thing is, you might have planned a trip like months in advance, as people often do.
Yeah.
You might have booked a flight or a hotel. You might have planned where or who you're going to stay with. You might have an Airbnb or something. Either way, you may have put something in place. And now, unfortunately, as you come to it, you might not be in the same frame of mind that you were before.
Yeah.
What
Oh,
then?
yeah.
What do you do?
Oh boy. I mean, in that situation, like, it is definitely one of those, it's like, okay, like, I know everything that's going into this and I know what I've got going on right now, but this is gonna be fun. But I think it's going into it knowing that it's not going to be a relaxing thing. It's going. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go have fun. Like, at the end of the day, like, that is the goal of it. But not putting that expectation on it of I'm gonna come out a fresher me than I was when I left, sort of thing. It was funny. I as you were talking, I kind of realized, I'm like, man, I kind of feel like people that go to Comic-Con actually do this and don't realize it, because of the way that Comic-Con has gotten and everything like that. I think everyone knows going into this is going to be a very stressful situation. And I'm going to be surrounded by a lot of people, but, like, I'm going there because there's going to be fun things to do, there's fun things to see. I don't think anyone is looking at that week in July and going, I'm gonna relax during that. But they're planning for it months and months and months and months ahead, and so they know this going into it. And actually, Lauren just pointed out that's why AFK rooms are so wonderful, and that is 100%
Absolutely.
true.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, to kind of bring the joke, that is the vacation from the vacation, like, because things are completely overwhelming, they're completely stressful, and it's nice that there is, that Take This has AFK rooms set up in some cons where you can just go to a nice, calm, dimly lit room with some beanbag chairs and just not be around all of that for a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I expectation is really the thing there with it. Is what I expect to get out of it.
So the very first time we went to Gen Con, it was Gen Con 2012. and my eldest was 12 actually, or almost 12, and my youngest was 7 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, mathing is not my strong point, as we know. But I had pretty young kids, and we were fortunate enough to be able to actually go there early. Like Gen Con opens Thursday, it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We went to Indianapolis for Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think really traveling with kids, it was the best thing we could have done. And we weren't even really dealing with what much of a time shift, but it gave us a chance to kind of settle in,
Mm-hmm.
find our way around, go to the children's museum, figure out where to eat and what the kids were going to eat and what was available. Because we really didn't know Indianapolis at the time. And kids can be fussy eaters, and we wanted to sort some of these things ahead of time. And so it was really great to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it made a big difference to the busy from Thursday to Sunday, because we knew where everything was and we knew where to take breaks. And so I would really encourage people, not everyone has the kind of time we had that particular year, but I would encourage people to do a little bit of research on the environment around whatever they're going to. So if you're going to a con of some sort, figure out where the AFK room is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out also what's around in the hotels. Like, do you have to stay nearby, which can often be, of course, great for the con, but maybe not as relaxing. The most recent Gen Con we went to, we actually didn't stay all that close to downtown. We didn't book early enough for one thing, but it ended up being really great. We got this Airbnb that was nicer than what we would have been able to afford
Mm-hmm.
or was even available by that point in the center. And it was just a real break to kind of leave at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So just take into account your environment and what you're going to do. And if the event is sort of quite an intense one with a lot of people, or you're going somewhere really busy, like you're going to New York City or something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, you're going somewhere where there's going to be a lot of activity and maybe a sense of there's going to be some fear of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the first thing is, yes, you're going to miss out.
Yeah.
There,
Oh, yeah.
100%, there is no way you can go somewhere like New York City or even to a really busy con where there's a lot of things you might want to see.
Yeah.
There's going to be things you're not going to be able to see.
Yeah.
And it's really important to kind of go, okay, what is perhaps the most important thing? What can we, or if you're traveling with other people, what do we all agree we want to see? And is it okay to split up to go see things on our own? And I think that's a really big one, particularly if you are traveling with kids, because if you're splitting up, there's a very good chance that your partner is then going to be saddled with a couple of kids or maybe three. What then? Is that
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you kind of need to talk about this stuff ahead of time before you actually go,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can work out what can we negotiate to do or not do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's the planning. And then we're talking about the mismatch between the vacation and your headspace. And I think we've addressed some of that, but I think what we really were talking about is like recognizing when you need to relax slash do nothing. And you had brought up that point.
Yeah.
Mm.
And like I do think that like going into a vacation, because like yeah, obviously when it's one that's planned far ahead, like that is, I kind of see that in my head more like I'm gonna use the word event for that now. Like that is an
Mm.
event that you are setting up and planning with you or on your own or with friends or with loved ones. And that is something that you are setting up ahead down the road. That is coming up. But I do think that there are other times where like you do need times where it is a vacation day, or like right now for the U.S. Folks, we've got 4th of July coming up, and it's on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And like the thing that like I will tell people, I'm like, if you're gonna take that Thursday off and you have the ability to, take that Friday off too,
Yeah.
because you just need some times to not do stuff
Yeah.
and be okay with that. Because like the vacation that I just took right now, like I took a week off and I didn't go anywhere. Like I didn't like well I did things, that's for another thing, but like I didn't, I didn't get on a plane and go somewhere. I didn't get on a train. I just, mainly stayed at home. My wife and I played
Mm.
through the new Elden Ring DLC and sat
Ooh.
there for, hours at a time talking about flavor text and lore implications and everything like that. And it was really nice because that's what
Mm.
I needed. That was the recharge that my brain was craving, was just not worrying about, all of this, planning or, oh, well, we got to do this. Oh, we got to be on time. Oh, we got to do this. It was just like, hey, I'm going to go out to the living room at 9 a.m. and, my wife will join me out there and we'll play video games for a bit and not really worry about what time it is and just kind of have a nice day. Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did tell you I was going to bring this up in here because like I do think that it is very valid. Folks out there may know what I'm talking about, but there's genuinely a Adam Sandler SNL clip that or skit that I think is genuinely applicable to life that people don't take with them as much as they should. It's like a travel agent or something, and it comes down to, it's like, if you're sad at home, you're still gonna be sad in Italy. Like that is kind of the thing where it's like you're talking about where you are at when you go on this, trip vacation and stuff. And yeah, if you are stressed out and super angry about everything and stuff like that, that is not going to change when you get on a plane. Like I
Yeah.
know there's like jokes and movies and stuff where they get on the plane, like, oh, I'm completely relaxed. Nothing is bothering me now. You still got itineraries, you've got tour groups and stuff. Like if you are going to Italy and doing all that stuff, like you're not resting. You are
Yeah.
going and doing stuff, and you have, all of these things that you've set up to do, and while they're going to be fun, it's still stressful to make sure everything happens that way. And because you've probably set an expectation of what you want out of it. And if you've set the expectation that what you want out of doing all of this stuff is to be relaxed at the end of it, you might just end up being more, ticked off at the end because you're not.
Yeah, if you have expectations of what you want out of a trip, that can really add to the stress that you're experiencing. And as well, I think Obo Lauren points out that some people need a plan, and some people are fine without one. And I absolutely agree that there's, in broadly, I would say there's two kinds of approaches
Mm-hmm.
to vacations, and it's very dependent on where you're going, and sometimes where you're going requires that you have a plan. So, for instance, we went to New York, this is pre-pandemic, for a big birthday for Eric, and we booked a specific Broadway show that we really wanted to see. And I think that's where obviously you need to book certain things ahead of time in order for them to happen. We
Mm-hmm.
did leave room for, oh, we're here and there's this cool thing to see and do. But if there's a non-negotiable that's really important to you,
Mm.
then you need to make sure that if there's a booking or if there's a reservation, whatever it is that we're calling it, you need to make sure you've done that so that you
Yeah.
don't miss out on that. But more broadly, some people do want that time that's open. So if they need the time to go recharge, or if they need the time to go explore that really cool bookshop that they saw, or, oh my goodness, there is this Broadway play and there's tickets to it. And, if we had something booked every night, we wouldn't be able to make room for that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to have a couple of some spaces in there, afternoons, evenings, if you can, that are open
Mm-hmm.
for whatever it is you want.
Yeah. Well, and
So that,
what I was gonna say was like, kind of on the note though of like still like relaxing stuff, is that like sometimes that does need to happen away. Like you do need to go somewhere, but like you were talking. I don't know if you mentioned in the episode, but I know you were talking about it before the show. Of like, Eric just wanted to go relax on the beach,
oh, right. So
and like,
this was, yeah,
yeah.
there'd just been a big game launch. And we were tired, and at the same time, we wanted to get away somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend in Costa Rica. So I
Mm-hmm.
do not recommend going to a different country where the spoken language is not one you are familiar with, um, where perhaps your intent is to maybe go sit by the beach,
Mm-hmm.
but somehow, let's just say things got lost, not exactly in translation because my friend was there, but there was this mismatch between, we ended up staying at a guest house that the friend had suggested. It was supposed to be right by the beach, but it was actually a 2 kilometer hike to the beach, really down the side of a mountain. And
Oh
this,
no.
and the guest house owner was really gung ho on booking activities for us for two reasons. One, lots of people came there to do activities. Two, that's how she supported the local economy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think looking at it, there was that competing agenda between, we were exhausted, and if I could just have sat by the pool for 2 days, it was a gorgeous view, so that's fine. But she was like, so when do you want to do horseback riding? We ended up booking horseback riding on a day where two of us had the runs and then didn't go because, like, and then she's furious with us that we're not going horseback riding. And I'm just like, there is no way that horse will not be befouled if I. So it's like, look, no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but like, yeah, the like, what you want is to relax at the beach. Like, you want to relax, not at where you are or anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I had a similar situation. This one was in Flagstaff, Arizona. Had like a family trip out there, and something happened, and we had all these things planned out for each day, and something happened, and we weren't able to really do that anymore. And I remember my mom was just like, oh, well, we just had all these things to do. And I was like, I'm going to be really honest with you. I am totally fine with just sitting in this very nice house that we have rented right now and not doing anything and watching weird Japanese game shows that for some reason this TV gets that I don't get to see at home. Like, that was pretty, like, that's how I spent like 3 days of the end of that vacation, and it was lovely, and I needed that. And it was
Yeah.
just not being here, and but it was still just not doing anything there, and that was nice. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think that we what we had shared here was having the space to listen to oneself before you plan your vacation
Yes.
and consider the amount the events around that time.
Yes.
So, for instance, anybody who works in taxes knows that tax time is insanely busy, and to have an action-packed trip to a large metropolis immediately after that may not be the best thing. Sure, a
Yeah.
change can be as
Yeah.
good as a rest, but is that really going to meet the need at that time for that person? So, I want to address the idea of family reunions as
Mm.
vacations. So, I'm from a migratory family, which means we left home. And for many families who don't have extended family nearby, um, the vacation ends up being getting in the car or the plane or whatever and
Mm.
going home
Yeah.
so that the grandparents can have some time with the kids, or so that you can be around the family you left because you otherwise don't have time. So, for instance, my partner, whose family migrated, the connection with vacation was always the trip home, which
Mm.
wasn't necessarily a vacation. Now, it can be great if you're the kid and you're going to just go hang out and play with your cousins. That might be quite nice.
Yeah.
But if you're the adults, and what this means is a week with your in-laws, now they may be wonderful, they may be even nicer than your actual parents, but we all know
Yeah.
that being in someone else's house
Yeah.
often and being on your, somewhat best behavior,
Yep.
and remembering to kind of squeegee down the shower when you leave it, every morning,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, is not as restful
Yep.
as actually being either on vacation or at home. There may be expectations if you're around grandparents during holiday times, or if they come to spend time with you, that you're going to get a break from the kids.
Mm.
Dude, that depends on the
I
grandparents. I'm
oh
just
yeah.
saying.
Yeah. No, my sister and her husband are down, and they my brother-in-law has very wonderful cousins that they're staying with. They're very lovely people, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll watch the kids. You two go out to have drinks with Trevor and Tara." And like, so we got to like just go to a bar for like a couple hours at night, and that was really nice. But that was very dependent on Nick's cousins being super awesome and cool. Like
Totally. And that is rare. And I think even if people want to do that, so when our eldest was 8 months old and we had been through the year from hell, this was
mm,
very shortly after my husband's mother had died, and we just that first summer with our child was just heartbreaking for so many reasons. And so we'd gone back to kind of hang out with my family and have a break.
mm-hmm.
And my family are lovely. My family are just they're lovely people. However, I should have recognized that since it had been about 17 years since my aunt and uncle had had my cousin,
Mm-hmm.
and it was their home that we were coming to, that they wouldn't necessarily be able to babysit. And also, parents, new parents, I just want you to keep one thing in mind that I wish I had known at the time, and that was that um, your child is also not going to necessarily at 8 or 9 months, when they start to get a little bit of the stranger, oh, I don't know, they're not necessarily going to want to settle with grandparents, aunts, cousins, whoever that they don't know terribly well. Once
Mm-hmm.
they turn into children, they might be quite comfortable with it,
Yeah.
especially if the more comfortable you are with the person, the more comfortable they'll be. But an infant, it's much more difficult. So Eric and I had booked this lovely restaurant.
Oh no.
Oh, we did. Oh, we did. And it's somewhere I'd always wanted to eat. And it was like, your 5 course meal. Luckily, it wasn't like your 7 course chef's tasting menu, real fancy, nothing like that. But it was a really nice meal
Yeah.
that was going to happen. And so no cell phones at this point. At
Mm.
least my aunt and uncle didn't have one. I don't think we had them. We were out of town, so no. So my aunt called the restaurant wondering if we could abort the mission and come home because my cousin wasn't settling. And this was during the appetizer. Like
Mm.
we had been there maybe half an hour.
Oh no.
Yeah, we've had a cocktail. We're just settling in. We're gazing into each other's eyes, remembering who the other person is. Hey, babe, so nice to be doing this.
Yeah.
Um, Eric and Mitra got a call there. So so
Jeez.
yeah, so just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the end, we were actually able to stay through our main course because there was a second call that went something like, "Oh wait, he's finally asleep." Um, and I believe there was a third call right around dessert. "Are you on your way home soon? Don't dilly dally." So
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So one of the hardest things about vacationing with our little kids anyway was like finding supports for the kids
Mm-hmm.
if we had any hope of getting time on our own.
Yeah.
And so again, you really have to think about what sort of vacation you're going to be having. And is this one where it's going to actually be a time to share special things with the kids? Or is it going to be time where you two are actually also going to be able to get time? Because that's not always a given.
Yeah.
One of the best vacations, because we're going to talk about Disney, but at the time, we were staying at this Disney hotel that had like pull-out bunks, and we have 3 kids, so there was actually enough bed for
Mm-hmm.
each of the children quite comfortably, and there was you could book additional babysitting where they do fun things with the kids, kind of like
Oh.
think about those Disney cruises where they have kids club.
Yeah.
This is a bit like that. The hotel also had a sort of kids club situation. There is no guarantee, folks, that your kids are going to want to go to kids club. Now, luckily for us, we had 2 very nice evenings that were after the kids more or less were settled with popcorn and a movie and a kids club situation, and we had our cell phones, and we didn't need there were no calls. But just remember, just because say one of those all expenses cruises or, resorts or whatever, just because those places have kids club doesn't
Yep.
mean your kid will go to kids club. So
Yeah.
keeping that in mind. So expectation versus reality here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, and like, yeah, we could transition over that because, like, yeah, there's the vacation with family,
mhm.
and like, yeah, I put in here Disneyland because, that is, I think that I don't think there's a better place you could go to see what we're talking about happen in live action,
Oh my
because,
God.
like, yeah, there's so many people that go there that have different expectations of what's going on. And yeah, some of them are going there because they're like, oh, this trip's going to be great. And when I get back to work, I'm going to feel recharged because, we had a great time with the family. It's like, absolutely not. And it's people who, yeah, something is going on outside of the bounds of time that they are there at Disneyland that is stressing them out and making them angry and everything. And they, surprise, are still the same people at Disneyland, and they're still thinking about, those bad reviews on their reports that they had, the day before, and they're just sitting scowling going through Pirates of the Caribbean. And so that one is one of those where it's like the expectation is the thing. Oddly enough, now that I really think about it, it's so funny. I kind of put this together. I think that is why Disney adults actually are having a good time there. Because again, it's like the con people where, like, they know that this is going to be a stressful thing. They know all this stuff going ahead of time. They have a set expectation. So they've watched all the YouTube videos and they've done all of these things. And so they know what they're getting into when they get there. So when something
Yeah.
goes wrong, they know that was a possibility and it doesn't just come out of left field.
Yeah.
And so, that actually might be why they seem to be having such a good time.
Yeah, and it's an important thing to take into account. So Disney vacations have gotten more expensive than
Yep.
ever.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a couple of things I personally um would find it. I think I was very fortunate in that the first time, and really the only time we've taken everyone
Mm-hmm.
to Disney, all three kids. The youngest was 5 and the eldest was 10, and our middle child was 8-ish at the time. And what really worked about that particular trip was the youngest was quite tall at 5
Mm.
and could go on all of the same rides. Because
Nice.
what I noticed happening with parents where they might have a tot who's 2 or 3 and then a child who's like 9 or something, is they'd have to split up. And
Mm.
really, when you're in a busy park and you're wrangling children and you're trying not to get them to eat all of the candy, and you're sort of hoping that everyone can kind of hold out to the end of the day, nobody's going to tantrum, or, you don't want to have to separate if you
Mm-hmm.
can help it. There are times when divide and conquer is great. You go to that ride, I'll go to this one. But if you have quite young children, then the kinds of, rides that they're going to be able to do are not going to be something that's going to appeal to the 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, with the FastPass and some of the other systems that are in place there, it's really difficult. It's difficult enough to get the rides you want. Now, if we have to book for 2 separate kinds of rides, I think that's even more work.
Yeah.
And again, what we're talking about when we talk about stress is the mental load and the urgency around time and money that comes up for people with these kinds of costly vacations. So we want to lower the stress of all of that. And if we have to have a mental load of this fast pass at that time and then this one at this time, and you're going there and I'm going
Yeah.
here, that's going to be additional stress
Yeah.
that's going to really beat it out of you in terms of enjoying your time together as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to separate, are you really going to see the wonder on your child's face if only one parent is,
Yeah.
I also find, and I'm on a bit of a rant here with
Oh,
this
yeah.
whole Disney thing, but extra young children in a hot park where they could
Mm.
get dehydrated and they're 3 months old,
Yeah.
little babies.
Yep.
Like, I get that you don't want to leave the baby and maybe have nowhere to leave the baby, but it's you got to find a way to make room for that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a extended family or grandparents or someone who can really kind of be with that child so that you and the older kids can go do something. But that's a tough one,
Yeah.
right?
It was funny though. You're talking about how when one of your kids was taller for his age, I'm like, so he didn't have to have his mom take off her hiking boots in line and put them in use, so that when you stood there, you got to the right height for Splash Mountain. If nothing ever showed that I was raised by lesbian moms, I think the fact she was walking around hiking boots said that all.
I think we did have to kind of zhuzh his hair a tiny
A little bit,
but,
little zhuzhin',
just
little zhuzhin'.
but he had curly hair, so it zhuzhed real well.
But yeah, another thing with that you had on there was was disenfranchised grief, which is the name of my new metal band, by the way.
Right.
And how, like, in that situation, there might be a thing that, like, at Disneyland, you've got your heart set on doing that, and you're like, I want to go to Pirates of the Caribbean. That's it, and no one else gives a crap about Pirates of the Caribbean, and so they're not specifically making time for that to do that. And so you're just kind of left out like, oh, well, I didn't get to do the ride that I wanted to do.
Exactly. And everybody else had a good time, and I'm just pining for this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that applies to pretty much anywhere. I went to Rome and didn't get to see the Sistine Chapel.
Mm-hmm.
This is not my reality, sorry. But if I went to Rome and didn't get to see the Sistine Chapel, I think I would be sad. But you can go someplace like Rome, say, or the Pirates ride, where there's like, you know, we didn't manage to get a fast pass, and the lineup's insane. And for some really big ticket touristy sorts of things, if the lineup to the Louvre is like 6 hours deep or something, I'm probably not getting in. Or if I'm getting in, maybe I really want to see the Mona Lisa there, but the room is so crowded, and it's this postage stamp sized painting essentially at the end of a long, and people talk about the underwhelming nature of that experience and how tough that is
I
for them.
believe that.
Right. And so, no one else care. You're in there by yourself, you don't get to see the Mona Lisa or whatever. You have, 2 hours at the Louvre or whatever. By the way, this did happen to me. I had a very short time at the Louvre. Do not have a short time at the Louvre, folks. If you're going somewhere to, a museum where there's specific things in there that you really are just dying to see, some kind of museum of antiquities or whatever, make sure that everybody understands you're going to need the afternoon or the day or whatever, and make that happen by planning around it a bit. So, yeah. So I think that covers, I think the Disney thing, and maybe some of these other kinds of, if you were to go to Italy and to see Sistine Chapel, they fall under the kind of umbrella of once in a lifetime trips.
Yeah.
And as soon as we say that, there's the stress.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the stress, the time, the money, the investment thus far, the distance that we've come, to see or do a certain thing.
Yeah.
We put so much pressure around it that it may not be able to live up to that, and that can be really difficult.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we did get one question. I do just want to say before we get to that one, my little soapbox: staycations get a bad rap. I don't know why people are it's like, oh, what are you gonna do? Oh, I'm just gonna hang around the house. Oh, what? That is literally what I've been talking about the whole time. Sometimes that's just what you need. Sometimes that is the vacation that you need, is to just not be doing things, and that is the recharge that you get out of it. So yeah, you know what? If someone says they're having a staycation, don't scoff at them. They probably need that.
Yeah. Now, I will say, if you're going to have a staycation, I would suggest that you put some things into place so that it's not just, I'm hanging around the house. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But it's that I am not doing laundry. I either do the laundry ahead of time or make sure I have enough clean clothes, or I'm going to be in my jammies all day, so it doesn't matter. I am not doing any work.
Yeah.
So put away, if you work from home, and just, put a out of office message on your email, so that there isn't a temptation to answer emails. pay, if there's bills that you can or that have to be paid beforehand, get them done so that there should be this gap between things that had to be done beforehand, get them
Yep.
done. Things that don't have to be done till after, don't get them done.
Yeah.
Like if they weren't due till after, you're going to set it aside till after.
Yeah.
Just as you would have to do if you were physically not there.
Yeah.
So create the space so that you can use it how you want. One of the downsides for a vacation or a staycation is that all of the responsibilities that are at home are still often visible to you.
Mhm.
So unless you are very, very intentional about how you're using the time, and you can remind yourselves or yourself, I don't need to do this now. I agreed with myself that I would take this time. You have to be able, have enough groceries if possible, or if you've planned to order out or whatever it is, have that plan. It doesn't have to be specific, but
Yeah.
have enough of it there so that you can say, yeah, no, I set the money aside for this. I'm good.
Yeah.
So that you can use the time in that intentional way that you were talking about.
Heck yeah.
Mhm.
That's a much better explanation than what I did of just let people be nice. Okay, so we've got one question. This is from Governor Explosion, which is just a great handle.
Love it.
Question: Gen Con is a board game con, right? What's a good way to approach a stranger and ask if you can join the game they're playing? So yeah, like, this is the kind of situation where, like, there are board games just kind of going on, stuff like that. If you're just hanging around, how would you go about asking if you could join a game?
Sure. So first of all, in Exhibition Hall, there are a lot of demo games that are going on. Sometimes you'll be coming back in half an hour to play the next round of demos. Sometimes the demo is about to start and you can join in. So you might not play all the way through in a demo game. And then there's the games that you do book ahead of time. But so there's like various, there's a whole room that's set aside for D&D games where you can just go join, you can just book ahead of time and join in on just a 4-hour a little game. Those are fun. But I think what you're talking about is how do I casually join in a game? So yeah, sometimes there's games set up, there's game spaces that are set up where you can go join in on a game. And with those, they're a bit more formal because they're in the sense that there's a bunch of strangers who are not strangers. Some of them might be friends of each other, but there's people you don't know
Yeah.
who are setting up to play together.
Yeah.
And with those, you usually go and ask when the next game is, or are they full up for that game? Do they have all of their players? So, and if they don't, you can certainly also join in on those.
Yeah.
When you play the demo games, that the company that's presenting the game will tell you which room you can play the game as well. So there'll be a demo game in Exhibition Hall, but they'll usually have a setup somewhere else in one of the smaller rooms. So you can do an entire playthrough. And that's where you can either ask them if they know what the times are, but otherwise you just go to one of those rooms and you can ask them when the next games are starting. So if you're politely wanting to join in on someone's private game, as in they're just set up, they're at a hotel or something and they're setting up a game, you could just go ask. You could just say, hey, I notice you're like, I'd love to play. Would you be okay with another person? Please understand it's okay to say no, like that kind of thing. I found that the hotel we stayed at the first few times, we actually ended up staying at the same place, like 3 Gen Cons running, because it was so much fun. You do get to know people, and they'll often be willing to share a game, or you could start a game and say, hey, we'd love it if is there anyone else here who'd like to join in? So hope that answers your question.
It makes me think of when I was running games at Barnes and Noble. Like if we had a table going and stuff like that. If I saw someone that was like looking over and they were kind of there for a little bit, I'd be like, hey, I got a sheet. You want to play?
Yeah.
So there are some people that are running games that are like definitely looking for people to stuff. And if you're just kind of hanging around and stuff, like, as I understand, I'm not great with social interactions either when it comes to that sort of stuff. So I can understand being hesitant about doing that, but also being around that area, kind of seeing the flow of like the game and stuff like that. And if there's like a lull for a moment, just being like, hey, excuse me, really sorry to interrupt. I was just wondering, if there was an extra chair that I could maybe sit down at or something like that.
Yeah.
Just
I,
finding that break in it to,
mm,
you know,
I found with Gen Con is that there's so many people there who are just thirsty for playing games with people who are like them.
yeah.
Like it's like you've got this, like, I mean, as far as cons go, and there's challenges at every con, of course, but
Hmm.
I found Gen Con to be essentially you're in a space with a bunch of other rule followers, because what's the fun in playing a game if you don't know how to follow the rules?
Hmm.
So I found a lot of people really quite lovely, and a lot of people just really excited to play games because maybe in their daily life they don't get to do that as much.
Yeah.
So I think don't be afraid to ask. Um, Make it clear to them that you're totally comfortable with them saying
Oh
no,
yeah.
or that one thing that can be great is, say you are really quite experienced in a particular game and you see two people and they're setting up and they've never played before.
Mm.
Then it's actually kind of a really nice thing to be able to present to them the option of playing with someone who's comfortable with that game and maybe willing to kind of talk about the rules and just talk them through, almost doing a little let's play with them. So see if that's the case.
Yeah. I like that. All right. Well, we got to start wrapping things up. Mitra, if people want to find you and what you do on the interwebs, where can they do so?
So you can find me sort of vaguely still on the site that rhymes with bitter, or used to. And not that that's a reflection of how I'm feeling at all. And also you can reach out to me via at Mitra Jordan or mitrajordan.com, and which is my website. So that sounded less articulate than usual.
That's fine.
Feel free to reach out via bitter. I put a hex on X because it make me vex.
I love that. I love that a lot. Yeah, you can find me on socials at the Trevor. There's an A hiding in there. Thank you so much to Mars and Lauren for moderating today and doing a fantastic job. And yeah, that's gonna do it for this week's episode. So until next week, take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself and be kind to yourself.
Yes, do that.
Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.